talking about the dark side of metals. We can't the dark side of the metals. We can't skip the topic of environmental impact of mining, and it's not inconsequential. It's actually pretty steep. Unlike other things, like let's say if you're talking about something like forestry, right? Mm-hmm. You can do like regenerative forestry where you're harvesting trees, you're planting new trees, and over time
for the future,
grow back, whatever, no big deal.
Yep.
In mining, it's a little bit different, especially with gold. Do you know how these small scale miners refine their gold? Have you ever?
Yes and no. There's many different ways, but go on.
So the big problem is mercury, and mercury is kind of what they use to, there's like, you ever seen that science experiment where you take gallium and you put gallium on aluminum and it basically melts the aluminum into the gallium? So gold and mercury kind of work the same way. If you take mercury and you put gold in the mercury, it'll completely dissolve the gold off into the mercury. So it's like a big mushy wet mass of gold in that mercury. So then what they do is they'll rinse it to wash off the impurities, and then they'll basically burn that mercury, and it goes up into the air, rains back down into the whatever, typically in the rainforest, for instance, because they do this a lot in South America. Rains back into the ecosystem, and then everything's kind of like poisoned with this mercury, also that they can get like a gram of gold or something like that.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. So talking about that controversy, the mining operations for precious metals can have a significant environmental consequence, including deforestation, right? So we talked about ethical deforestation. They don't always do it that way. They're just clearing out the land to get to the dirt, right?
Right. They're calling it overburden or whatever, overgrowth. Yeah, they just bulldoze it over and Yep. And then there's the factor of soil erosion, right? And then the water pollution from the use of certain chemicals. So the debate is that sustainable mining practices and increased scrutiny on environmental regulations, that they should aim to mitigate those impacts. Some of the case studies, I mean, you could look at it's typically the impoverished countries. You don't see this stuff happening too much in the US or in Canada, So you're talking Africa, Asia, South America. And just stop there because we have Canada has the laws restricting that stuff because they don't want to see. If you're going to go in there and mine, okay, great, get your stuff and put it back the way it was when you left. That's what has to be done.
All right. So on that topic, I do want to discuss that because this is with anything involving certain commodities. Yes, in the US, we can put these heavy restrictions, these laws and these regulations that limit how we can do it. What it really does is it forces the people who do it here to spend more money doing it. Right?
Of course.
Because it's going to cost more money, which means that the end result is going to have a heavier premium because it took that much more effort and cost to dig it out of the dirt, right? Or they could take their operation to one of these other countries where it's cheaper and then dig it out that way and then bring it here and sell it and pocket that premium.
It's all if
it's a catch-22, man.
It's all if the numbers add up, man.
So it sucks, man. If you really think about it, the way it's all tied in together. But I mean,
do you want cheap gold or do you want your land to be looking tidy?
Yeah. So here's just an image of somebody using the mercury method to refine gold.
Yeah.
And again, they're using their bare hands. So you're talking about
look at that.
Health effects of mercury poisoning in people. But they don't care, man. They're like, all right, if I can make, $1.50 today.
I'm worried about eating too much fish, and this guy's got his hands all up in it.
He's drinking that water when he's done, man.
Wiping his face.
Check out the full episode on the Crucible Podcast. Link in the description below.